Hey guys, real quick, before we get into it, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way, you don't miss out on any of the tea. Thanks.
Hey Charles, how's it going?
You know what? I love our podcast.
I love our podcast
And
too.
I'm glad we're doing this, and I think we're getting our groove. We're kind of finding our niche a little bit. Do you think so?
Yeah. I agree, and it's nice to be filming more frequently and getting to talk about more timely topics, which we're going to be talking about. I think a topic pretty close to your heart that you're pretty passionate about today. So the University of New Orleans recently made the switch from being a part of the University of Louisiana System to the Louisiana State University System.
Yes.
Can you tell me and our listeners what that actually means?
Absolutely.
And also share some of your thoughts on what you think that might mean for UNO long term.
Yes. So this has been a long time coming, right? There's been a cycle of ups and downs for UNO. So to kind of set some background, the University of New Orleans was founded in the mid-1950s, and when it was founded, it was originally LSU New Orleans.
Right.
So it was the location for LSU, but in the city of New Orleans. So that was in the mid-50s, and in the early 70s, the UNO student government voted to change the name from LSU New Orleans to simply the University of New Orleans.
Okay.
So that's where privateers came in, blue and silver, but despite the name change, they continue to operate under the LSU system, right?
Okay.
So in Louisiana, we have a few college systems, LSU system, and then the University of Louisiana system, which is kind of your more regional schools. And so it operated in its entire duration as an LSU school. This all came to a head in around 2010, and the state voted to take UNO out of the LSU system and put it into the UL system. Essentially, the main reason was UNO was always treated as the ugly duckling, the stepchild. Yeah. LSU flagship Baton Rouge, all the money, all the resources, all the investment. UNO was never prioritized.
Right.
And this was known, but what makes that so frustrating is UNO has played an integral key role in building up the middle class in the New Orleans metropolitan, in Southeast Louisiana, all of it. And it is, I didn't go there for my undergrad. I went there for my PhD, but those students are great. I mean, it is an exceptional student population. And they're underestimated, and they're always just in the shadows of other schools, right? So it's never gotten that love that it
deserves,
right?
Yeah.
So back, almost 15 years ago, right? They voted with the mindset that by being in the UL system with schools that are kind of more comparable in its size and student population, that it would lead to this rejuvenation of UNO.
Right.
The other key thing to keep in mind is that pre-Katrina, everything's Katrina, right?
Yeah.
The enrollment at UNO is 17,000 students.
Wow.
Currently, it is at 6,000. That is a net negative 20 years later of 11,000 students. What that means is it never really recovered from Katrina, right? So this combination of post-Katrina, voting to put it in the UL system back in 2010, 2011, here we are in 2025, and it has not worked.
Yeah.
The population is still low, and they have been in a budget deficit for years now.
Yeah.
Interim presidents, financial woes, and so bad, right, that this had to become part of the state legislative session for the state to come up with a plan in coordination with UNO we're going to try and see what happens if we put it back into the LSU system. Okay. So that's where we're at. So last year, a bill was passed that was signed into law to put UNO back into the LSU system. We're now a year later, and I get, I still teach an intro class there, and I get all the emails. This month, October 2025, is the first month that the transition team is formally meeting now.
Okay.
And so while it is back in the LSU system, the devil's in the details.
Right.
Right. So what does that look like?
What does it look like?
History is not really on the side of it was never prioritized. So it's great. Putting it back in the LSU system, that's fine. But if you didn't prioritize it when it was originally in that system, what's going to be different now, right? So the transition team is just now meeting, and one of the first key questions right now is, will they continue with the UNO name or formally rebrand it back to the original 1950s name, which is LSU New Orleans?
Right.
But here's the thing, it wouldn't just simply switch the name, it would redo everything.
Right.
So the UNO campus on the lakefront would be purple and gold. So you're changing all the brochure, everything. Everything would be.
It would be completely branded
It
as
is
an LSU campus.
New Orleans. The argument is that name recognition is going to help market the university in a much better place than it ever has before.
Right.
I'm curious your impulsive thoughts. Do you think that will work? Just based on everything I've just said so far.
Yeah, I mean, it cannot go without saying how significant LSU
The brand.
and the Tigers and purple and gold are as a brand, as, you know, an identity. You know,
Yes.
I travel the world, and people, when I say I'm from Louisiana, they know LSU and like the Saints, you
Right.
know, like, so it is something that I think is significant outside of Louisiana and across the state broadly. But UNO and the Privateers and the blue and silver are a point of identity for the city of New Orleans, right? And it's something that is very important to people here. My father was
The
an
alumni
alum
base.
of UNO. He
Oh.
was very proud to be
See?
a privateer. And so it's one of those things that I can understand that initial impulse to say, well, if we call it an LSU, it opens up all of these doors of people who want to go to an LSU but can't go to Baton Rouge because of the cost, or they can't go to Baton Rouge because they can only take so many kids. And, you know, LSU is seeing, you know, record enrollment.
Yeah, enormous growth.
You know, seeing enormous growth. There's interest both from students within the state as well as students outside of the state. And so, yeah, that is definitely an opportunity to say, hey, you want to go to LSU and you want that LSU experience, you want to be an LSU graduate, you can do that in New Orleans. I can see that impulse, that could work, or that's the route to go. But I think it negates what you lose in losing the identity of being UNO and being a university in the city that serves people that are
So
here
I
in the
agree,
city.
but here's the question, and I don't even know how I feel about this in all honesty. Is it at a point that it's a necessary evil to become LSU New Orleans? Like, their enrollment is low. There's like, they're cutting program furloughs. Like, is this?
But is a rebrand enough? Like, is a rebrand really the problem?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question.
Right? Like,
I don't know what the root cause. Yes, Katrina had an impact, but at the same time, what is it that is preventing the school from just slowly rebuilding up a certain population? I don't know what the root cause of that barrier is. I don't know if it is the branding. I don't know.
Because here's the thing, right? If you're not getting to the root cause of why students aren't enrolling there, you can spend all the money in the world to paint the lakefront purple and gold. And if you still are not getting that undergraduate enrollment, then all you've done is further exacerbate the problem, right?
Correct.
Because you've spent all of this money, brochures, student IDs. I mean, when you think of all of the things that you would have to reprint at the university to rebrand it as LSU, the cost of doing that, email extensions, the website, think of all of the things that go into brand identity for a university to then take UNO and redo all of that to LSU New Orleans and still not see the increase in enrollment. What difference does it make?
It makes.
And even with the rebranding, if you are still not prioritizing this university in some regard, right? So it's never going to be prioritized higher than the flagship LSU.
Exactly.
But if you're not giving it focus and care and attention and zeroing in on the types of students that it serves and making sure that you're speaking to that type of student to get them to enroll, then it's all for naught, right? Whether you continue to call it UNO, whether you go and rebrand it as LSU New Orleans, what is the reason the enrollment is down? If you're not tackling that, dressing it in purple and gold is not going to change anything.
I agree. It's like the branding is important, but I think that the real question is like the outreach. Or the lack of outreach, I guess. Or I guess a more specific, it'll be interesting as this transition team starts to meet, as they start revealing to the public, this is what we think are the steps that should be taken. Yeah. Big steps, small steps, all in between, right? I feel like I did read originally in one of the emails from I will say the current president is doing a good job of like the transparency, like this is what's happening, right? I really do think a lot of this is outreach.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of what high schools are we going into, not just in the city of New Orleans, but Jefferson Parish, right? The North Shore, the surrounding regions. And yes, like rebranding as LSU New Orleans, and you get the purple and gold, but also you're getting a different type of student who would go to the flagship Baton Rouge versus a different who would go to UNO.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think
the draw of New Orleans, I guess.
What's critical is
I don't know,
understanding
your student population.
Who is the student that you serve?
Yep.
Right? I think that the student served by the University of New Orleans here in New Orleans is a different type of student than the student served by LSU and Baton Rouge.
Exactly.
And that's okay. And it's necessary, right?
Absolutely.
Like they both serve a purpose. They both have a place within the higher ed ecosystem here in the state. And so I don't think it's as simple as saying,
I agree,
it's LSU in New Orleans. There is a reason why there was a UNO to begin with, right? Yeah. There's a reason why that university developed and evolved in the way that it did. It is because it is distinctly not LSU.
It almost seems
in New
like
Orleans,
simultaneously, for at least, you know, like your father, right? They know what it is, but there's also an identity crisis at the same time. Yeah. That it's never fully solved, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, I don't know. So I think it's, like I said, it's great. We voted to put it back in, great, cool, but it really is the details, right? And the outreach. But I am, you know, at the beginning of this episode, you asked, like, I teach an intro class. How do I feel about this? I think it deserves a lot more than what it ever has gotten. And I'm not just talking about the college, but like that area of Gentilly, right? It can be so much better. Imagine, you know, that end of Elysian Fields with student amenities, coffee shops, apartments. Like,
well, even you think there's the Lakefront Arena
exactly.
out there. It's
there's
like,
so
why
much
there
underutilized space. Also, you know, UNO is right next to SUNO, right? So some type of cross collaboration or something. I don't know, right? So it's kind of that part of New Orleans is it's just underestimated, right? And underutilized. And I really hope that this is a turning point. I will say that they have gotten their financials in order. Mm-hmm. Now, that's after a few years of it being a mess, but we're finally there, right? And there's been a lot of furloughs. You know, I had to, for a long time, my department head was being kind of constantly updating us on whether or not our position is going to be kept, right, as an adjunct, for instance, which I'm thankful that I still have it. So I'm glad they got the financials in order, but I really hope that this transition team carefully and methodically examines in these conversations of like what was UNO but what could it be?
Do you feel like your students are aware of this?
Yeah,
and how is it impacting them in the day-to-day? How do they feel about it?
Honestly, they're aware of it, but they don't have an opinion either way.
Right.
You know, my students are, I would say I've taught there for 10 years now. Consistently, it's 50-50 in terms of 50 living on campus and 50% commuting. Okay. Right, and I would say this because it's never really leaned more one way or the other. The students at UNO are very, like, they chose it, right? Like, they chose to go there over because they want to be there. Right. But they also understand that they're not given that love of other schools, but they deeply love it, right? Yeah. Shout out my friend Kristen, she'll appreciate this. She went to UNO. She's she loves it, right? She's like, whenever she goes, oh, my heart, all the time, right? But students who go there, they're very proud of going there. But they deserve to have a level of a college experience that matches the passion
that they have for their university.
That's always been a mismatch. Yeah. And it deserves so much more, right? So I think this is a turning point. I'm hoping it is. We'll continue to follow it. But, you know, even in our previous episode, higher ed in Louisiana, education in period. It's an ecosystem that needs every part to play its role. Right. The K through 12, the early childhood, the four-year university, the community college system. And I will say, to kind of end on this, you know, in the larger national landscape, I do think that Louisiana does understand the importance of our universities. Yes. Right, and the role that they serve.
Absolutely.
in a way that you don't actually see in other states. So that does give me some hope that we understand that this is the state wouldn't have acted on it if they didn't feel it wasn't important enough. So we'll continue to see, but I am hopeful. I will say that. I was not hopeful for a long time, but I think that we're turning the tide. The financials are in order. The furloughs have stopped. The transition team is starting. But the key question is the rebrand right now, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and get updates from you on the transition team and what's happening over at UNO.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Charles. This was very enlightening.
Absolutely.
And I always love to get to pick your brain on topics like this.
Yes.
If there are any topics that you guys want to hear or want us to talk about, definitely let us know. You can leave them in the comments. You can shoot us a DM on social media, and we will talk to you next week.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.